everybody, and welcome to my new show, Autism in Action. My name is Laura Kirby-McIntosh, and I'm really thrilled at the opportunity that's been given to me by the fine folks here at the Disability Channel. I want to begin by thanking them publicly for not only putting their faith in me, but also everything that they're doing on behalf of and for people with disabilities. They've also been a huge support for the Ontario Autism Coalition over the last year. I'm vice president of that organization. I'll tell you more about it later. And we're extremely grateful for that. We have a great show lined up for you today, and I'm excited to get started. But before I introduce our first guest, I want to tell you a little bit about what I hope will be the vision for this show and the direction that I think it's going to go in. So I really want to focus on two key points. One, a focus on individuals with autism. I want to talk about their successes, their accomplishments, their unique skills and interests, their abilities, and also in a very real way about their challenges. But the second focus I want to take is one on advocacy, self-advocacy for those who are on the spectrum, disability advocacy in general for friends and families and those that work with people on the spectrum, intersectionality, legal advocacy, and direct political action. So those are all topics that I think we're going to be touching on at some point over the next several shows. Now, some individual goals that I have. One is that I'm hoping to book as many guests with autism as possible. I'm a real big believer of a saying that we hear often in the disability community, that there should be nothing about us without us. And so I want to commit to you now that I'm going to do my best to regularly feature people with autism on the show and let them speak for themselves. If you're watching and you'd like to be on the show, or you know somebody that you think would, please get in touch. The second goal I have is really to use this show as an opportunity to empower other advocates. And I want to do this by interviewing people who have personal or maybe professional experience as advocates, and then also sometimes by passing on some of my own tips and tricks. The third thing I want to do, obviously, is to promote the initiatives and the events of the Ontario Autism Coalition. As many of you may know, the OAC is a grassroots political advocacy group focused on improving supports and services for individuals with autism and their families. This show, I hope, will keep you up to date on what we're doing and how you can get involved. And lastly, I do have a goal of being as interactive as possible. I want to answer your questions and leverage the power of social media to consult with you, the viewers, about what you want this show to be. So to that end, the interactive bit, we've already started. First of all, the name of this show, Autism in Action, was actually decided by a vote in our Facebook group for the Ontario Autism Coalition. By the way, shameless plug, if you're not already a member, please join us. You can find us on Facebook under Ontario Autism Coalition. The second initiative I have is I want to put the call out to you, the viewers, to design a logo for this show. I've just told you a little bit about the focus and the vision for the show. And you've heard that the name of the show is Autism in Action. So I would love it if we could actually have a logo that was designed by a person with autism of any age. So if that interests you and you'd like to give it a try, please send your design to j@thedisabilitychannel.ca. And I've been told that the request is that you send it as a JPEG file with a resolution of 400 pixels or more. And I just said that sentence as though I really understand what that means. Anyway, he'll forward it to me and we'll take it from there. And good luck to all of those amazing artists out there. Now, after the break, we're going to come back and kick off the show with somebody who happens to be, among many other things, an artist with autism. So stay tuned for the first ever guest here on the Autism in Action show, Elsbeth Dodman. We'll be right back. welcome back. I'm your host, Laura Kirby-McIntosh. Next up, it's time for me to introduce our very first guest on Autism in Action. I'm honored and excited to introduce her. I first met Elsbeth Dodman about a year to a year and a half ago at the offices of the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth. Since then, I've come to know that in addition to being a person on the autism spectrum and an advocate, and an excellent one in her own right, she's also an exceptionally gifted writer. In addition, she's an accomplished artist, she's been a guest on CBC Radio, and she's a graduate of the University of Toronto, Sheridan College, and Fanshawe College, with degrees in fine art history, anthropology, and autism behavioral science. Elsbeth, it's wonderful to have you here on Autism in Action. Thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's start with some background information about you. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in London, Ontario, and have lived there all my life.
All right. For you personally, what's the best thing about having autism?
I really enjoy listening to music. I think that's always been something that I've really loved to have in my life, and just the way that I'm able to absorb sounds and incorporate those into my artwork. Mm-hmm. But I also really enjoy having my special interests and the stuff that I can rely on to help me calm down and to bring something special to my days and my weeks while I'm not at work or at school, something to really give me something to look forward to.
Tell me, what are some of those special interests? What do you like to do?
I really like comic books.
Awesome.
I love comic books and have since I was in high school.
Very cool. Do you collect them yourself?
Oh gosh, yes.
Oh, okay.
We recently rebuilt a new bookshelf and it's full.
Awesome. Already.
yeah.
Very
it wasn't a challenge.
All right. Let me just switch gears a little bit. And this is a question that I think I'm going to ask all of my guests, but I'm wondering what the word advocacy means to you personally.
To me, it means being able to speak to my experience. Autism is such a broad spectrum that there really is no way that I can cover everything all on my own. We really do need to hear multiple voices, but a way to make one voice heard and one experience heard, so that other people can say, you know what, I have experienced some of that as well. Maybe not all of it, but I do know what that feels like. And giving rise to them to be able to say, I know what that feels like, and I have a jumping off point to talk about my own experiences, which may be different, but still very valid. And also to demonstrate to the rest of society that we do have something to say.
Mm. Well, on that point, I want to ask you about your work with the Youth Advisory Group for the We Have Something to Say project. Now, I know this was an initiative under the Office of the Provincial Advocate for Children and Youth for Ontario. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what this group is and what they've done so far?
The We Have Something to Say project has been a lot of fun. It's been really good work that we've done. It's an advocacy program, so it looks at disability in general, not just autism, but a whole cross-section of disability, learning disabilities, physical impairments, developmental, and so on. And we've been able to say, what is life like for people with disabilities? And I've really enjoyed that it is such a diverse group in age, in ethnicity, in disability, so that we can say, in Ontario, what does disability look like? What can we do to improve what it looks like? How can we help people currently, but also future generations, to succeed and get what they need and to be able to have that voice. And so I'm really proud to be a part of that.
Excellent. Now, I know that I think it was in November, your group released a written report called I Have Something to Say. We're going to include the link for that in the bit underneath the video on the show. But can you tell me a little bit about what you hope will change as a result of the release of that report?
I would like to see attitudes change. I would like to see things change as far as, I suppose, the autism spectrum specifically.
Right.
The quality of life for adults. I know that a lot of us on the group are youth and are younger, although I think having more access to services, higher access to funding and supports will benefit the youth of today when they become the adults of tomorrow.
Oh, well said. Thank you. All right. Now, I want to shift gears one more time and just ask if that's okay. I know because I'm friends with you on Facebook that you've been publishing a number of pieces of writing on your Facebook page this year in the form of letters written to somebody named David. And I wonder, before you share some of that with us, can you tell us who was David to you and what are you exploring as you write these letters?
Sure. David was one of my art professors when I was taking fine art history. He was my drawing instructor. And in one of my art projects, I looked at autism and autism spectrum disorders and my experience with those. Right. And so David, my professor, wanted all the students to keep a blog, an informal blog about our work process, what inspired us, how we got about doing our work and what mediums we used. And so I started to write to him as sort of fake letters, starting each one, Dear David, and then writing about autism spectrum disorders or things that had happened in the news or things that had happened in my life or my views on things. And it was sort of a way to keep him in touch with not just my thought process on my homework, right. but also to use it as a jumping off point. Because when I thought about talking about autism spectrum disorders, I wasn't really sure where to start. I knew roughly what I wanted to say, but forming it as a letter, as though I was speaking directly to one person rather than just addressing an unseen audience at large, gave me a way to sort of pin that down and give it a focus so that I could write to somebody and say what I wanted and have it be informal, but as though you're speaking to a friend.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I know for me personally, I really look forward every time when I see it come up on Facebook that you posted another one of these letters. And I'm going to ask if you would do us the honor today of sharing one of your letters right here on air.
Sure, I've got one printed off.
Perfect. All right, take it away.
Dear David, have I told you about the skunk? I think I have. I must have. Maybe I haven't. All right, I'll tell you. But first you have to know that my people skills are not what they should be. My understanding of what other people feel or how they will react isn't perfect. I'm getting better, always learning, but it's sloppy at best. And it's so hard to keep all these learned social rules in your head, to juggle them in each conversation and to get it right all the time. I don't mean to upset you, but odds are I probably have. I'm sorry about that, David. So anyway, the skunk. The skunk is dead. Its limp body tucked belly up against the concrete curb outside my high school. I still remember the look of its fur and how it seemed to move in the breeze of passing cars, but the body itself was still. What is death, David? Where did the skunk go? Nothing should be that still. I had wondered about petting it. I really wanted to. But reminded myself that dead animals can be just as dangerous as live ones. I assumed the poor thing lost a race with an automobile, but I could be wrong. And in any case, it's probably filled with bacteria. It's well after school time, the students have fled, but a few stray teachers are still around. Specifically my science teacher, a kind woman who is about my height with bright red hair. She was so patient with me, David, I think she must have been a saint. And here at this curb with this dead skunk, all I can think of is sharing it with her. She'd want to see this excellent example of decomposition. Surely she would. She's a scientist. But there's no way I could get her to walk all the way out the building to stare at its carcass with me. She'd definitely say no. And just telling her about it would be hollow. No matter how well I tell it, it just wouldn't be the same. I need to show her. I'm clever, and I find a box in the recycling bin. Use the edge of the box and the edge of the curb to scoop the skunk without touching it. That's a must, David. The halls of the school are empty and still, but I'm sure that my skunk in the box will go over well. I'm sure she'll be just as fascinated as me. I can see my thought process, so I'm confident that this is a quality plan, the best plan, an A-plus plan. What have you got in the box? She asked when I arrived at the shared staff office, and a little worrying thought creeps along my spine saying, this was a bad idea. But I'm here. I'm invested. A dead skunk. Oh, God, another teacher exclaims from somewhere in the office. He probably wishes he'd gone home on time like the rest of his coworkers. He gets up swiftly and opens one of the small windows that probably won't help. They don't even open all the way. Something people don't tell you when they talk about autism is the embarrassment when you screw up. The real and utter embarrassment when you've done something wrong, and the very real worry that maybe you've messed up so badly that people won't want to be with you or talk to you ever again, that maybe you won't be able to face them anymore without thinking about that thing you did. That sinking worry that follows you, sometimes even when you've not done anything wrong. But when your head thinks that a dead skunk in a box is a good present, you know you can't trust anything else it comes up with. Each interaction is a minefield, and I am waiting to explode. I'm sure if I dropped you in the middle of Hong Kong, David, you wouldn't know what to do or say or how to be with people. Just knowing the language isn't enough. You have to know how to move, how to sit, how to eat, when, where, why. You have to smile at just the right time. You have to see, but only the things they want you to look at, and for just the right amount of time. Always. My town is Hong Kong, and the people around me are talking in an English I don't speak. And bless my teacher, she's patient. She doesn't yell, she doesn't scream. She walks me through putting the skunk back where I found it against the cold curb, putting the box in the recycling bin, and washing my hands. My lesson for the day is not handling dead animals. I decide it's not a good time to tell her that, in fact, I've been very careful not to touch the body. If there's one thing I have learned, it's when to keep my mouth shut. I need to admit that this is not one of my finer moments, David. But I still talk about it because it's true. Because there's no laugh track, because I'm not always a good person. I tell it because I hope that you will laugh, and maybe if I can make you laugh about a dead skunk in a box, then maybe you'll remember this better. Maybe you'll even forgive me.
Wow. I'm going to run out of ways to say this, Elspeth, but you are an extraordinary, talented writer, and you've got such an important story to tell about what life is really like on the spectrum. I hope that one day all of your letters are published and you can continue to both entertain and educate us about your experiences. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and for joining us today.
Thank you again for having me.
All right. After the break, we'll wrap things up. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me and the OAC and what we do. And I'm also going to tell you about some upcoming events we have where you can visit us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Well, not anybody can be a PSW. It takes someone truly special to be a personal support worker. So PSWs, when they get together, they understand each other the best. So, like the association at OPSWA, we are a family. PSWs run the association, so who better to understand what PSWs go through but their peers. So I believe that, PSWs need to have that center of gravity. They need to have that circle of care so that they're better able to produce and provide quality of care for those that they care for every day. This summer, we're actually going to be hosting a seminar on autism. It's a 4-part series on autism. So we have an IBI therapist named Tammy who is going to be coming and teaching our PSWs as to what to look for, how to work with these individuals. What is a high-functioning person with Asperger's as opposed to somebody who is a low-functioning autism. So it's going to be very important for PSWs to learn these strategies because the field is hot and PSWs are that ticket. PSWs should definitely come to our conference because it's important for PSWs to get to know their peers and to interact with their peers. I think it's really important because so many PSWs work by themselves and they kind of feel lost in the big crowd of PSWs or a big crowd of the healthcare field. So at this conference, they're able to communicate with other PSWs, learn new things, what's happening in the field. They get to interact with their professional association, and best of all, they get to celebrate who they are as a PSW and feel celebrated.
Hi, welcome back. I'm your host, Laura Kirby-McIntosh, and thanks for joining us for our first ever show here on Autism in Action. I figured since it's the first show, this is probably a good time to tell you a little bit about who the heck I am and what the Ontario Autism Coalition is. I know some of you know that already, but let's start with the basics. So my name's Laura. I was born and raised in North York and went to the University of Ottawa where I studied history and then got my teacher's certificate. I am the daughter of a strong, smart, and inspirational woman. I'm the wife of a loving and highly intelligent and gentle man. I'm the mom of two incredible and often hilarious kids, both of whom are on the spectrum and kind of in different places. I am, as I said, a teacher by training. I've been teaching for 23 years. My specialty is civics and law. And I am also a self-diagnosed political nerd. I've worked on campaigns at every level of government. I've worked for a federal cabinet minister. I met my husband on a provincial leadership campaign. So I'm a nerd, but I'm proud of that. I also have the honor of serving as the vice president of the Ontario Autism Coalition. So that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about next. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we are a grassroots political advocacy organization. I really want to emphasize the grassroots part. If there's people out there that think the OAC has like some big offices somewhere, we don't. We literally operate out of our kitchens. We founded, though, back in 2005. It was a group of parents that founded it, and we've grown phenomenally, especially this year. Our mission is to advocate for publicly funded supports and services for people with autism and their families. And we do that in a variety of different ways. One of the ways that gets us the most attention probably is our political protesting. We're pretty good at that. You may have heard earlier this year about our Autism Doesn't End at 5 campaign. We also are pretty good at leveraging mainstream media and social media as well to put pressure on the government to improve their services. But the other thing that we're good at that you don't see so much in the paper is the behind the scenes work where we go in and we meet directly with politicians. At last count, we've met with over 50 MPPs, cabinet ministers, and even the Premier herself. And what we do is we don't just complain about what's wrong with autism services, and don't get me wrong, that's a long, long list. But we also go in and suggest evidence-based solutions and our ideas about how things should be different and how they could make it happen if they just had the political will. So if you want to learn more about who we are and what we do, then obviously the best place to go is our website. You can find that at www.ontarioautismcoalition.com. You can also, as I said earlier, find us on Facebook. Just do a Facebook search on Ontario Autism Coalition. And you can also follow us on Twitter at ONT Autism. We also have a number of subgroups in Facebook. So if you are interested in education, or if you are interested in adult services, or if you're a youth with autism and you want to participate in our closed Facebook group on that topic, then you can do so. And just send one of the admins a request and we'll direct you to those groups. So, upcoming events. Well, I'm really excited to say that we'll be holding a booth this weekend at the Abilities Expo at the International Center, Hall number 1. That's on January 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And we're also going to be holding a booth at the York Special Needs Information Fair on Saturday, February 11th. Both of these events are totally free, and we encourage you to come out, not just to talk to us, although we hope you'll drop by and say hi, but also to network with other disability groups and learn more about services and supports for people with autism and also with other disabilities, because intersectionality is really important. So folks, that's it for today's show. I want you to check out the links in the scroll below for more information about the things that we discussed today. And I want you to stay tuned for our next show where we're going to talk about human rights law in Ontario. I want to thank you once again so much for joining us on our first ever Autism in Action show. Remember, keep being awesome. I'm your host, Laura Kirby-McIntosh. I'll see you next time. Thanks.